Femi, it's nice to see you, even if it's by camera and by with computers, but it's a human contact at least. Hi, Made. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay, nice. Nice to meet you as well. Okay, so I was talking with your dad because we've a story together with the family. With your grandfather first, because we were for the Campaign of Liberation in 1986 in Paris, and in 1999 for the Cora Awards. Mandela was there, Michael Jackson was there, and it's a long story. So the first time your father performed in South Africa, and it was very symbolic for the end of apartheid. What do you think, Femi?
Yes, it was. I mean, it was a great, at the Sun City, it was a fantastic night.
Because the South African people, they were waiting for you. Your father was not allowed to play there before. So it was a great moment of liberty, of freedom. We can say that.
Yes, yes.
Great. So we're talking about the musical legacy, okay, and the political legacy. That's this word of legacy is very important to me, but I would say there are 4 generations of musicians in your family. I was talking about the grandfather, Canon Ransom Kuti, who was a composer of Christian music. Was he a legacy for you, Femi?
Yes, but we traced our legacy for 7 generations now.
7 generations, yes.
Yep.
There were musicians before then, before Ransom?
Yes, yes, the first one was a hunter, musician. Then I think one was, he used to play for the king. Then my great-great-grandfather, then my grandfather, my grandfather, my father. Wow. Me, my son. Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know there was 7 generations then, because we are only talking about the 3 generations.
His own father, the generation you're talking about, his own father was the first West African to record for the BBC. He was a composer.
Okay.
That's canon.
So, J.J. Ransom Kuti.
Do you know about that legacy, Made?
Yes, I'm very aware.
And how do you define that legacy? First Femi, maybe. As long as what's your role in that legacy, and what does it represent for you, that legacy?
By just being myself, by being true to myself, by being righteous, by being steadfast. It's a very important legacy, but I don't let it get to me. I try to find balance in my life. I focus on my work to deliver my work as best as I can. Think about my family. I understand that each generation had their part to play, and it's very important for me to understand what they did and capitalize on that positively to propel myself as well. But the main focus is now my time, my family, and to be a good parent. I think this is most vital for me right now.
Thank you. And Made, what do you think of that legacy, and how do you situate yourself in that legacy?
I only discovered what the legacy truly meant when I was in my teenage years. As a child, all I understood was that my father attracted 2,000 to 5,000 of people 4 times a week at the shrine to play music. And the music that he sang about, I didn't hear on the radio. And the music that he sang about seemed very conscious. It seemed very important. But my friends in school didn't know much about it because they didn't really have access to it unless they came to the shrine. Streaming platforms didn't exist as they do now. My dad's music wasn't as easily streamed as it was, as everything is now. So the legacy, as it dawned on me when I was much older, was luckily, it fell in tune with the kind of man that I was trying to become at that time. I was focusing very much on my values, on my ethics, on what I chose to focus my attention on, what I chose to discard, what I thought had true value to me and what didn't.
You discovered the new jazz scene of London, and that's important for you. Does that bring
Yeah.
something new for you in your
Yes.
background, musical background?
But yeah, by the time I finally decided, not finally decided because there was no particular point. I always knew that I wanted to do a particular thing with music that was special to me, because music had to be creative, it had to be individual, and it had to be artistic. So when I discovered my piano teacher, first my dad's music already taught me about originality, because I could easily tell even as a child how different his music was from Fela. And when I started to study at Trinity and I started, all this music suddenly opened up to me, the entire Western classical music history, and then jazz history, and then there was a modern jazz, underground jazz scene, as you mentioned, like Kokoroko, Femi Koleoso, Ezra Collective, Sons of Kemet, and all of this influenced my taste in music. And somewhere along the line, the legacy, as political as it is, and as musical as it is, my life fell in tune with it.
I was going to talk about the political legacy, and I would quote maybe Femi, 4 generations of political militant, because I would like to talk about your grandma, your Mama Fumilayo, the feminist and nationalist militant, and how do you leave that political legacy, Femi? That's 4 generations or more than 4 generations, Femi?
Yeah, you're not forgetting my grandfather. He was very political as well. It's just that because he was a Christian missionary, he could not be seen in the forefront. So he was very supportive of his wife. He was very popular. I mean, he was a disciplinarian. So everybody knew this. But because of the Christian status he held, he could not be seen in the forefront. So he was always pushing his wife and very supportive of his wife in a political ambition. And then, of course, my father. This was, I mean, this was, this probably it's my life. I mean, I was there from the beginning when my father was poor, when he had his first hit, the police raids, how he was tormented, his courage, his bravery, my traumatization. I mean, this is Femi Kuti's life. And when I left to start my own music, it was totally unavoidable because my life I was in the midst of the chaos politically. And I don't have another life. I don't have another life to express than what I express. So my concern for humanity is the definition of this heritage.
Okay, and Made, how would you define your political commitment? Different from your father and your grandfather?
I was very politically conscious from a young age because I used to have a lot of conversations with my dad about balance. I used to try to understand why things were not equal, why people didn't have equal opportunity. Because a lot of my friends were in the lower class, the financially lower class, and I didn't understand why they didn't have the same opportunities that a lot of my rich friends would have. So my dad explained inequality to me, he explained injustice to me, he explained corruption to me. And I did a lot of research on my own. I started to read books. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I read Scramble for Africa. I read Stolen Legacy. And through all of that, again, I found that I was a concerned citizen, that I didn't like the way things were, and I wanted to play my part in trying to make things better. And if that meant making music and using it as a friendly tool to communicate my message and communicate my ideas, then that was what I was going to do.
Okay, you released a new track, As We Struggle Every Day. Femi, could you talk about the meaning of that song?
Yeah, it just tells us where we're at politically. People work very hard. I mean, the people of this country work tremendously very hard to survive. But then when elections come, they vote for the same corrupt people. This is very hard to digest for me. Like Fela's staunch, I would say, somebody Fela totally opposed Obasanjo. People went back to vote for him twice. And then they complain when it starts to be a bad when his government is bad, people start complaining, but they repeat the same mistake again over and over. So I'm just thinking about this story that we have, that we keep voting for the people that are meant to be in jail. And we keep repeating this same vicious circle all the time. So the song is there to make us rethink, so we don't repeat ourselves again. And so this song is just a summarization of our lives, really, of today in Nigeria.
2 years ago, you released the album Our People, One People, One Word, and now
Yes.
Stop the Hate. There is a gap
Yes.
between these two expressions, between sort of the dream of unity and maybe now Stop the Hate. That's just a depression state, or what?
That's not it. I think I'm very optimistic. I understand that we probably will always be in a big battle in this life. And if you give hatred or injustice the privilege to show its head, it will always commit atrocities that will take us a long time to solve. And every album is based on my state of mind, or what is more serious that I have to put my input at that time. At the time of One People, One World, I sensed a lot of disunity. And this album was really there to say we need to work together. We need to understand this planet is like a big house, and we're all citizens of this house. And if we don't get our act together, this house will crumble. So it is important for us to share ideas, culture, and be one big family. And if we do this, this place will be a big festival, basically. And between then and now, I see so much hatred and injustice that it's really sad. When you even look at the migrant crisis, you look at racism, you look at poverty level, and people just don't seem to care about their neighbors anymore. So Stop the Hate is a big statement saying we need to stop it now.
Mm-hmm. Made, your album is called Forward.
Yes.
That's a celebration of freedom. How can you explain the name of this album?
The
Forward and word apart.
Yeah. It has it's a dual meaning. It means forward as in progress, moving forward, knowing where we've been, where we are, and how we can be hopeful in our endeavors so as to accomplish the things that we're trying to achieve. So we move forward. And forward, as it is my first body of work that I'm bringing out in the industry. So it is my introduction to the industry.
Okay, so you compose and you're playing and you arrange and you play all the instruments.
Yes.
Why? Why this choice? Why not sharing the music with musicians in
because
a
it's
session
crazy.
or a recording session? Or yes, Femi, you want to say something?
Because it's crazy.
It was when I came back, and I was practicing a lot when I came back from university in 2018, and I was practicing about 5 instruments every day, and I was writing the album at the same time. And somewhere along the line, I decided that I can play what I'm writing. So as I was writing, I was practicing the parts at the same time, and then I decided to record everything myself. I thought it'd be the best way to communicate this very personal message as my first body of work.
You're recording in Lagos at the moment, and
I recorded in Paris in 16 days, and my dad recorded as well somewhere in France.
Where exactly in Paris? We must know. Châtelet. Oh.
Yeah, I can't remember the studio. This is somewhere outside Paris, but I finished up in my producer's studio, Sodi, in Studio Zama in Châtelet. I always use Studio Zama.
Okay, and you record with musicians from Paris or just with your musicians as usual?
This album was just my musicians and my son. Made plays on my album, of course. Mm-hmm. So this was very important for me as well.
There is now in Nigeria a new musical scene that was more commercial, less political, with this Nigeria with Wizkid, Davido, Don Jazzy, and what do you think of this evolution, Femi?
It's their style. It's not something I want to do. So I like some of what they do, but it's not what I want to do. I think maybe we look at it this way. Variety is the spice of life. Everybody cannot be political. And to be political, It's a very personal decision one has to take. When you are political like Fela or me or my brother or what Madi wants to do, you have to understand you probably are not going to make money. You're not going to have multinationals backing you. You might have many obstacles in your life. Life is not going to be rosy, but this is a decision you have to take on your own. Nobody can force you. My father didn't tell me that I have to be political. It was something I wanted to do. I'm not going to tell Made he has to be political. It's something he must feel because this is going to be his struggle in life. This is probably his mission, or it has to be his attitude towards life. And the way I see it, for me, I don't see a love story that's more important than talking about unity, about hate, about injustice, corruption, and togetherness. But then, if Stevie Wonder didn't compose, I just called to say I love you. Probably we'll all be killing ourselves if we were also political. So I just look at it as, well, everybody has to do what everybody has to do.
Made, what do you think of these new generation of musicians? It's your generation. What do you think of their musical choice, the values, what they show from Africa, the image of Africa they give all over the world? It's different from you, from Fela, from Femi, from your family.
I think in everything there has to be a fair amount of balance. So when I was at Trinity, it was clear to me that the level of musicianship and the training of musicians in London was nothing compared to the training of musicians in Nigeria. There's conservatoires, about 5 different conservatoires in the UK. They are all very strictly, academic, very practical, very well learned, and very talented musicians. Hundreds of thousands of graduates every single year. And in Nigeria, from high school, we're taught that the artistic path to life is not a profitable one, and it should not be of interest to anybody. So music, I could not even learn music in schools because it wasn't a subject. The only thing that I could participate that was creative and artistic was visual arts. And even then, a lot of times, we weren't even allowed to take classes because they never took it seriously. So in Nigeria today, my generation is a product of the educational system, and where people have prioritized what should be coming out of Nigeria. So a lot of the Wizkids, Burna Boys, and Davidos, they have good ears. So they have a knack for music. They have a knack for melody. They have a knack for performance. They're good entertainers, great entertainers. However, there is an imbalance of musicianship where people who understand music theory, people who are experimental with music, people who care about the details of sound, the details of harmony, of rhythm, of practicing, of, the tediousness of reaching high level musicianship. There are very few people that are chasing down that path. And that is because we're taught that music is not something that should be of quality, because it should not be important. So hopefully over the next few years, we will see a change in that kind of thinking, and the industry as it is today will start to produce more musicians who are interested in musicianship. So you might have heard of musicians like the Cavemen, musicians like Bez, like Asha, Neka. All of them still are fighting, not fighting, but they're communicating their message away from the industry, really. So there's not a lot of backing. Like my dad said, multinationals, they're not going to get endorsements for the kind of music that they play. Even more so if you play political music like myself or my father. So there's supposed to be a balance, but it's very imbalanced.
So you think there are two words, your word where you try to define music, and this word that's more.
Yes.
There is a gap. Definitely there is a gap between the two.
As my dad would say, it's not the same universe, kind of. Yeah.
Sure. And how you regard it in Nigeria?
I have a small fan base, I think. I have a good fan base and who are interested in the album. A lot of people like my single, Free Your Mind. A lot of people were very impressed by it. A lot of people who know my father's music and Fela's music truly loved it. A lot of people were simply a bit overwhelmed by the amount of instruments they were hearing because they're not used to that much density in music. So yeah, I got very different remarks, but everything was good.
Femi, it's question is for you both, and it will be my conclusion. Let's talk about the COVID, because that's the that's the issue of the moment, and that's a world issue. What's the situation in Nigeria for the Nigerian people and for the musician who can't perform, Femi?
It is terribly difficult. The shrine, for instance, has been closed now for a year. It's hard to pay musicians' salary or staff. It's impossible right now for so many people. I'm sure you remember during the SARS protests against police brutality, the palliatives that were sent from Europe, from outside Nigeria, were stored in a lot of warehouses, and people found this, and the politicians refused to distribute this foodstuff, and there was pandemonium when people found out. People are starving, people are hungry, and the suffering is incredibly, I don't even think it's so depressing right now. And then we hear of so much death outside Nigeria. I mean, so many people are losing loved ones. When I hear what's going on in England or France, I mean, we're in such a depressive state. I would like to send my condolences to all the people who have lost loved ones. I pray we quickly overcome this pandemic and get back to our lives. But even when we do, we have to remember those that lost their loved ones at this time and be sympathetic to. I know what it means to lose a loved one, and it's so difficult. It's just words cannot even express the difficulty people are facing right now. So, and unfortunately, even with the vaccine, I don't see light yet at the end of the tunnel. Last year, we had 4 international tours canceled. Our money is still with the airline. Luckily, the airline are still giving us a few months. But I mean, this money is just hanging. We have, my producer, look, I could go on, but this is personal information. And then I know people that can't even put food on their table. I mean, it's such a depressive, sad time. I don't even know what to say anymore.
You can't perform even here. There's no live music here.
Yes, we are not allowed to perform. Yes.
Okay, Made, what do you think of this situation? Is there a movement among the musicians to say, well, like in Senegal, they used to protest and to say, well, we want to play with the security measures or whatever, but we want to play because it's their only income, in fact.
A lot of people, some people are breaking the law. Some people are having secret performances. Some people are having secret parties. A lot of people are having gatherings. And a lot of people have been arrested for that. And because the shrine is such a liberal place, and it is so opposition to the government and anti-corruption and anti-government, it is very risky for us to do any of the things, to take any of the risks that other places would have. So if, for instance, the shrine didn't obey the law to the tiniest detail, then we risk, permanent closure. So we haven't had any performances since then, and it's hard to balance your personal experience with what's going on with the rest of the world. Hundreds of thousands of people have died because of COVID-19. A lot of it because of bad policies, because of bad government and late tactics. And if I was being very selfish, I could say that, it's the worst possible thing that could possibly be happening during my first release into the world. My band is rehearsing, but we're not allowed to play. And the music Afrobeat always sounds special live. So I'm not happy, but I know that there's too much pain to personalize the experience of COVID-19. So I just pray that the world survives through it and we find a good vaccine and everything can return as quickly as possible to normal. And musicians are having a very difficult time in Lagos. Very difficult.
Thank you. Femi, just a word for the end, because it's the end. So no tours for the moment, no perspective, no. Is music the weapon of the future? How do you see the future?
I hope I hope this album, Legacy Plus, will bring some comfort to a lot of people. I think it will bring some kind of love on their table. I think it's a great album. And if they listen to all the tracks, they will go on a very interesting, lovely journey. So everybody should listen to the album.
Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you. And hope the situation will be okay and we can see you in Paris or whenever you perform. Thank you very much. And hope Nigeria will be okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.